Hello, Shelley, the UK transplant who now lives on our island of Vancouver Island. It's so cool. I only have 4 Canadian speakers. I thought we would have more, being that I'm from Canada. And 3 of the 4 are on our island, and 1 is from Vancouver. We must be super spiritual in the west side of Canada here.
And I was introduced to you by a friend in Australia. So it was
Yes.
a huge coincidence that we were literally a stone's throw apart.
Yes, and I just made the assumption that you were part of Rebecca's sphere because she's from the UK. So this is brilliant. Thank you for being here today and joining us and sharing your voice and your message with all of these people that are here to learn and to grow on their journey. I'm going to start just by giving people a little bit of background about you. One of the pieces that I think is really important to share is you, like many of the presenters, used to be in corporate. So you were a communication specialist for 20 years before you actually transitioned into making spirituality or being a spiritual entrepreneur. So, and I say this because it inspires people to look at it and go, hey, wait, there's at least 12 of those women that were in corporate before that are now doing this. So this is so cool. So now you're dedicated to the mission of helping individuals who are on their spiritual journey to reconnect with their true self, attract the people they need in their life, and build their new inner circles, both in person and online, which I think is so important. 10 years ago, online wouldn't have even been something we would consider, but today it's a big part of our world. So today you're going to talk about relationships on our journey, which again is a really important piece of this. So I was thinking that maybe you could start by sharing a little bit with us about what your relationship is to spiritual curiosity and going from there.
Yes, I would love to. This feels like a good place to start. So as a child, I would always do kind of prayers with my grandparents when we'd stay at their house. But personally, I wasn't grown up with much of a religious faith. And it honestly wasn't until I was about 35 and my daughter was 9 months old. My mum invited me to attend a Raj Yoga series of events at a Brahma Kumara Centre in Cardiff. So we would go every week for, I think had about 5 or 6 sessions. And it was beautiful because with a young child, it's not often that you have time outside of the home, like grown-up time. And the sessions were quite long, they're about 90 minutes, and they were a real chance to introduce new concepts about spirituality, but also have a conversation and really see what resonated. And I found that a lot of what they spoke about sat comfortably with me. Not everything, but most things that were said sat comfortably. And my mum and I would go to a pub round the corner afterwards, have a nice glass of wine and talk all the concepts that had been discussed. We had some really nice, deep philosophical talks. And again, with a young child, you don't often get into that conversation. So it was so refreshing. And I really feel like my mum and I went to another level of our relationship, able to talk about this stuff. And at this time, I was living in Wales. Most of my friends and family were in England. So I wasn't getting to see them very much. And I think now on reflection, when I was going to visit people again, and even my friends that I was making where I was, there was just a little bit of disconnect because the relationships, the conversations were very surface level. And we're talking babies, we're talking about going back to work plans and just all those day-to-day stuff that, dare I say, can be a little bit mundane. So I think I was gunning for something deeper. Fast forward to 2021, and we were already preparing to move to Canada, and I had my first psychedelic experience. And this was, I would say, quite life-changing. I could have still opted out of coming to Canada. It would have been very easy for me not to come to Canada. It was going to be a hard thing to do. But on this experience, I had a good few hours of self-talk, self-reflection, and a huge realization that this is what I need. This is going to make me, and about the journey that I was going to go on. It was also a reality check on the individuals in my life and a real deep reflection on the people who are important to me, who I really felt And I think some of that kind of surface level conversation that I was talking about with old friends, with new mum friends, it's just, you don't feel enough. And I think I was yearning for that feeling of having deeper conversations. So in this first kind of psychedelic experience that I had, I was really feeling, tears were falling. It was, the next day would be one of the last times that I saw my grandfather, who was one of the people in my life who's like my people. Like he, such a deep relationship. And I know I went there the next day and there were a lot of tears. He wasn't sick at all, but we both knew that would be one of the last times because I was moving to Canada. So I do think that experience introduced a new level of learning for me in terms of this spiritual curiosity. We came to Canada. It was not an easy transition. I won't delve into that too much, but I came here and started a master's program. And one of my first programs was, it was a leadership module at Royal Roads. And I had no idea that it would be very spiritual. And my professor, he had been on a huge, like a 3-year nomadic journey around the world to try and bring more spirit into his teaching. And my goodness, he did. He did. It was so deep. All of us were surprised at where it took us, but it led us all to really think about the pivotal moments in our life that have shaped our worldviews. And he even introduced his guru, who lives in the Himalayas. She's Canadian, actually. Her name's Hadaya. She lives in the Himalayas. So every week he would record a 2-hour video with her. And they'd be delving into a leadership principle, very deep and spiritual. So it was so new and so enlightening and just really awoke my curiosity. Wow. And I think it was about a month after I started that course that I started feeling transmissions come through as to what I am here to do. And it's all about connection and all about community and all about the need that we all yearn for, belonging, connection in our lives. And I needed it as much as anybody else. It was like, okay, this is my calling. I need to start testing, learning for myself first, and then I can help others. And in the January of 20, when we were back in lockdown here in Canada, so I couldn't even hang out with all of these university friends that I'd met. We were locked down again. Our kids were home from school and daycare again. And I had no choice really but to go inside and really get to know myself. And that's when I bumped into a guy who would become my spiritual mentor, literally on the beach, crying because it was just before my 40th birthday. We were locked down. I literally couldn't do anything for my birthday. And I was literally crying, and I bumped into him saying, I just want to feel in community, or something like this. And it turned out that he used to have an intentional community in Ontario decades earlier. And we stood there talking for an hour and a half, all about community, connection, belonging, all these things. And he's such a wise soul who I am so blessed to have in my life, and I still have in my life. I'm going to his on Saturday for a little soiree with my professor that I spoke about before, actually.
Wow.
What a really interesting group of people together, able to really delve into these topics.
I want to come. Can I come?
Yes, come. I'll swing you and invite me in.
I love the term an intentional community. This is an intentional community. That's such a beautiful phrase to highlight the beauty of what it is that we're doing. We're coming together with an intention to create massive impact from a place of love, right? That's what this intentional community is about. So thank you for that. And also thank you for reminding us again that yes, it is possible to marry spirituality and business. I did an entire session on it in this summit, but this is another leadership from a place of spirituality is completely different than leadership from a place of, it could be ego or just strictly a masculine form of leadership, and nothing, not meaning men. I just mean do, get done. We need to. So thank you for reminding us.
This the other day, actually, because there is a whole thing on spiritual leadership. And
Absolutely.
there's a lot of academic papers written on spiritual leadership and bringing this in.
I wrote a paper for my coach training program. We had to write a paper, and I wrote it on leading with soul, which is, yeah. Anyways, sorry, I got you sidetracked there. Thank you. That was beautiful.
Let's touch on, you mentioned about, you picked up on the intentional communities. I had it in my head that I wanted to launch an intentional community. I was like, this is the answer. I was convinced. I visited an eco village in the spring of 22, and I was like, yes, this is it. This is what I'm looking for. So we were in touch with them for months. And in the end, last September, we were invited to go and move in. So I moved in with my family, with my partner and my 2 young children, into an intentional community, into an eco village. We lasted for 4 months. So we've only been back in modern life for a few months. My perspective has changed dramatically on that. So whilst we have this, and I did definitely have a thing after being there for 6 weeks or so that, I don't feel lonely anymore. And then I wondered how long I'd felt lonely for. But ultimately, it wasn't a community with intention, because we didn't necessarily choose who we were with. And that meant that the conversations that we were having wasn't necessarily the conversations that we wanted to be having. And I really felt like I was on this journey of creating this program, yet the narrative that was in the community was it was very environmental. And I really care about the environment, but my purpose, my mission is more about the social sustainability than environmental sustainability. So whilst it's all important for me, for my mission, I needed my headspace to be sitting in the social sustainability. So that was one of the reasons that we moved back to modern life, and appreciating modern life so much off the back of that experience.
Oh yeah.
I think anybody should go and do it, but I wouldn't want to repeat it. Let's put it that way.
Did you find that there was judgment? Was there hierarchy? How did that go for, like, did it confuse you?
Yes and yes.
Interesting.
And I didn't realize it when I was there, but coming out of it, I know I went to a beauty place not long after, and she asked me the same question. Was it very judgy? And I was like, oh, yeah, I think it was. I didn't realize it at the time. I definitely, yeah, there was some very big feelings. Like, it was an amazing opportunity. I learned so much in that 4-month period about myself, about what I can help people to create in their own lives, and just about the importance of finding the right people to lean into whilst you're on your spiritual journey, that's going to help you to explore it at your pace. Because I think everybody's spiritual journey it happens at a very different pace for everybody. Like, I don't know if Christina Lopes is on your radar, but she talks about the different stages of your spiritual awakening. And how some stages can be weeks or months, some stages can go on for years. And I would say that will really depend on the people in your circles, because if you're not able to talk about what is going on for you, then you're like suppressing this journey, and then it's not going to be evolving at the pace that it otherwise could be. So I propose that the people around you and the people that you lean into are super, super important. And those people We've spoken before about those people might just be there for a reason, for a season, and not for a lifetime. And maybe some of your lifetime friends aren't on this journey at all. And maybe you'll step back a little bit from them. And that doesn't mean they won't be a huge part of your future. But right now, you need to protect this kind of aura of your spiritual journey and be able to be your authentic self. And Brené Brown says some beautiful things about this. One of her quotes is belonging. I'm not going to do it justice now, but it's all about being your authentic self. And if you're not truly able to feel like you belong, because you're not even belonging to yourself, and we need to belong to ourselves first and be able to speak what is true for us in the company of people that it's comfortable, and you're not feeling that judgment.
Yeah. I feel like there's a constriction or a shrinking of your immediate circle before it expands back out again. Like
100%.
Yeah.
You need to go into this cocoon phase where you go inside and you get to grips with what the heck is going on with you. And yeah, through my program, the first module is all about self, and it's all about, let's unpack, who are you becoming? What are your values? What are your priorities? What do you want to be speaking about? And once you get, I actually call it like dating yourself. Date yourself for a couple of weeks and have some really nice time with yourself. And then when you start speaking to people, and whether it's people you already know in your circles already, or new people who are potentially going to be part of this journey with you, because you've got to know this new version of you, you're able to talk about those topics that actually make you come alive.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to magnetize these people to think, wow, you're super interesting. Maybe you're one of my people.
Yeah.
Because you are emulating exactly what is going on internally for you. You're bringing that out. And that's it. That's going to be attracting. But there is a huge part of disconnection on this journey.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And I think a lot of people might be feeling, oh, I'm on my spiritual journey. I should be feeling more connected to everyone and everything. And the reality might be different for you. You might be closing in. You might not want to see anyone at all. And that's because the right people aren't there yet. And you actually need to create the space in your life, because we're all so busy. Actually, if you continue with your normal routine, there is no space for new people. There's no space to explore this. So protecting, so that kind of feeling of disconnection could be your soul self protecting you to open up those spaces to then be able to invite the right people, the right experiences into your life.
And I've talked about this a little bit with a couple of the other presenters around, sometimes the family piece is the most challenging on your spiritual journey, especially if they're not anywhere on their journey yet. They can see, she's got a screw loose or she's joined a cult or whatever it happens to be. And it's hard because you don't want to let your family go. And so there's a bit of a challenge there in terms of, how do I stay connected and keep my family in my world in alignment with the journey that I'm on?
Such a good question. And we had challenges moving into the eco village. Some of our family members were not very happy about it. We've got young children and they're wanting to protect. So that was a very big challenge. And I'm living away from my family right now. So in some ways, I think that helps. And I've spoken to a lot of clients are expats. A lot of people go on their journey, and that's when their spiritual journey begins, because they are outside of their comfort zone and maybe they feel like they're allowed to. So like for me, it was bubbling for probably 5 years before it really started to come to life. in a space where I was allowed, I was liberated. I didn't have the judgment.
Mhm.
I didn't have a normal routine of people that I saw. It was like a fresh slate. So last summer, I did go back to the UK, and I'm about to go back to the UK again in a couple of weeks. So I guess I'm going to be delving into this. This is going to be the first
Yeah.
time that I'm probably going to be speaking openly to people more about this.
But it did sound like, from what you shared at the beginning, you have a spiritual connection with your mom.
We do, but from a distance, I wouldn't say that we are having those conversations. And I love it when we do. I think time zone plays a big part in that. So I'm really looking forward to having some quality time with her. I'll be staying with her for a couple of weeks. So I'm really excited to be delving into all of this. And I'm blessed that she is definitely open to all of this. But essentially, my circles that have been nurturing this have been people here in Victoria and some really pivotal people around the world. Went on this 18-month exploration of bringing groups together and one-to-one and groups, and then really feeling into who is meant to be on this journey with me right now. And that's it. That started as quite a small circle. It's now expanded a bit, but I've got in-person and online people around the world. And some of them I've known for 20 years, but had barely had live interactions with until I started going on this journey. So it's been amazing to really see who's come forward and who is meant to be part of my, I call it my communiverse, which is
I love it.
my hybrid intentional community.
My communiverse. That's a good one. I find it really interesting when you connect with someone that you've just recently met and you feel an instant connection, so you're an energetic match, but the conversation is fairly superficial until one person says something, whatever, like, oh, that's energy or whatever it happens to, and the person goes, oh, you speak that language? And it's like, yeah, do you speak that language? Oh, yeah. Do you want to talk about that? And then you realize we're just operating from this default of, I'm just going to test, is this a superficial conversation type person? Or no, I shouldn't say superficial, but I'm going to use the word mundane like you used. Are we talking about the color of lipstick here? Or are we talking about the quantum field or whatever it happens to be?
Yes, and dropping those words are really important. And you can see if someone lights up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And then things open up.
Yeah. And then you feel, and then next thing you know, an hour and a half has gone by and it's like, holy cow, this is what I'm craving, right? I think that's what really at the end of the session, that is really what you're talking about is, I think a lot of us are craving those deep, connected conversations that matter.
And a lot of those could happen with people already in your orbit. So we've all got so many contacts on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on all of our channels, right? We've met a lot of people, but do we know which of those people we could go deeper with? We really don't know that much about the people in our circles. So the idea of actually intentionally bringing different groups together and having coffee chats with people, like I worked in corporate during the pandemic, I would be encouraging people to have informal coffee chats with colleagues. But now I'm not in corporate, like, why would I not be continuing that with people in my network? And through that, dropping those little words in and seeing, could they be a person that, and the conversations that I've been having are amazing, and some of them are superficial, and that's okay.
That's okay too. Yeah,
you've got to take the risk to test, to really find the people that are meant to be in your life right now. And the live interaction is a huge message that I really want people to think about. So we're not just passively consuming content, but we are having live, even if it's just a 20-minute coffee chat with people, because it's those live interactions where you really see if there is a connection for you, whether that's in person or online.
It just popped into my mind about all the friendships that we have. Like on Facebook, I have 4,000 friends.
That's a big party.
But do I really? I don't know, 3,000 of them or 3,500 of them. So that's a great point, is do we really know them? And who's available to us right now that is craving the same thing? We don't know unless we reach out, right? Do you have a community that you've created?
I've got different pockets of communities all over the world and digitally, and I don't want them to be too big, and they're evolving as well. So we gamify it. So in my different communities, like for some of them, you can be in for up to 22 weeks. And
Oh, interesting.
this is something that came through to me. And interestingly, when I connected with my spiritual mentor and I've talked to him about this 22 weeks thing, when they had their intentional community, they would do that. They would say either people come for 1 or 2 week immersive experience, or they have a 5-month experience. And I'm like, hang on, this is like 22 weeks. So they stay in and we have these amazing discussions over bi-weekly. And then by the end of it, they're ready to hold space for their own groups.
I love it. I just wanted to mention, just as we're closing up here, when we first chatted, I went to visit your website and you had a fabulous little short video on your landing page, which was basically about hybrid communities, creating hybrid communities. So if this is resonating with anybody who's like, I want to do that, I want to create my own community, I'd recommend that they go to your website and watch that little video.
Thank you.
Yeah. And how can people find you?
So my website or my LinkedIn, I'm Shelley Ceridwen, and you can find me there. I have a few programs available. I have a 90-day program and a 1-day VIP day with me where we go through all this stuff. So at the end of that day, you are ready to create your hybrid community.
Oh, I think it's fabulous. I think it's brilliant. And this is what it's about. We talked very briefly before we started this. This is like the crack in the windshield, right? And the summit is like the rock that hits the windshield, and then all these voices get heard. And then what everybody does with this information turns around and takes it out into their world. Maybe it's a hybrid community, whatever it happens to be. That's the impact that we're working towards. So
thank you so much for having me, Mia.
Yes, thank you for sharing your wisdom and your beautiful voice. And this is just the start, because hopefully we're going to be doing a live event together at the end of April 2024, which we'll keep everyone posted on. And hopefully you'll be joining us for the live Q&A as well. So we'll
Amazing.
talk soon.
And I'm so excited to see the other talks on this summit.
Yeah, so it's brilliant. So we'll talk very soon, Shelley. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.